Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the official Homefront pregame show. I'm your host, Spencer Chason, and as always, with me is Christopher Calls. So, Chris, how's it going?
I'm great. I'm super excited about this weekend's Homefront charity tournament. And this video, we're going to break down the rosters of the participating teams and the charities they support.
Yeah, so essentially, for those of you who don't know, this is just a tournament put on by the supporters clubs, and they're all playing for a prize pool that's going to be donated to the charities of their choice. The tournament includes teams from the New York Excelsior, which is the Five Deadly Venoms, that's their supporters club, Toronto's Alpha Flights, Houston's Lone Stars Vanguards, which is the team for Houston Outlaws, and Atlanta Royal Family, which is obviously Atlanta Reign. So all these supporter clubs are linked to their respective Overwatch League teams. The event will be December 22nd, Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time. And it will be streamed on the NYXL official Twitch page. So we'll leave a link for that in the description below if you guys are interested in checking it out.
Yeah, and just if you guys didn't know, this Homefront tournament is a charity tournament where each team has a specific charity that they donate to. And the teams actually play for a prize pool that will be divided up among the teams. So 50% goes to the winner, 30% goes to second place, and 10% go to third and fourth place.
Yeah, so for those of, we haven't mentioned this yet, but the prize pool, I believe, is $3,337. So, again, the winning team gets 50% of that, and that goes to the charity of their choice. And then, obviously, the goal of this is to raise awareness for these causes. So if any of the community members, such as yourselves, want to donate, we will leave a link for that in the description below, that you can donate and show your support.
So, on to our first team, Alpha Flight.
Yeah, exactly. We got to start off with Toronto. Obviously, this is a Toronto.
Of course, we're both from Toronto.
Team, exactly. So the Toronto Alpha Flight, the general manager that we spoke to, obviously was great, Root Bear, Richard. And they have a very specific cause that they're donating to. So they're trying to build power stations at the St. Michael's Trauma ICU waiting room. When we were talking to Richard, obviously he has a good connection to it. He sort of explained it as when you're in the trauma ICU waiting room, you're not necessarily there by design. You know what I mean? There's no preparation for that. So the last thing you really want is to be in one of those waiting rooms. Obviously, it's last second, last notice, and your phone's dead. You can't call loved ones. You can't notify people where you are. There's a whole wide variety of reasons why you'd be in that situation and need a station to charge your phone. So I think overall, it's just a really good cause.
Exactly. And just moving on to their roster. So on their on their tank line, they have Pwn and Hobo. So Pwn is our 3200 main tank, and Hobo is our 3300 off tank. And one noble thing is that Pwn's actually the captain of a college called Durham College. He's the captain of their esports team.
Yeah, which is really cool. And then Hobo is, quote unquote, a tall guy. So not a fun guy. A tall guy, so very Toronto of him.
Exactly.
And then moving on to the DPS lineup, obviously probably the most well-known player on this team is 60, and they have him as a 3700 DPS player somehow. So I think Richard's hacking the system a little bit, because obviously 60 is the former 6'5", so he's also a tall guy. A hit scan / Hanzo player from the Elo Hells Dante Contenders team. So he's best known for that. He used to play for them. And I'm not sure why he's at 3,700, but he's I've seen this guy play. He's a super incredible. Yeah, he's very talented. So I'm very excited to see him play. And the other DPS is Derelict, who's a 2,900 gamer, and his actual first competitive game, we don't necessarily reveal his age, but was Quake. So you guys can sort of put two and two together. He is the oldest member of this of this tournament. I think he's just a year younger than Richard, so that's pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And given his Quake background, he's going to specialize in those projectile heroes such as like Pharah and Mei.
Yeah, exactly. And just on the support side, we have Warfare Matt and Noir. So Warfare Matt is 3,750, Noir is 3,400. Yeah. Now, Noir is one of those guys who've been gaming forever too. He was gaming on Sonic, doing Sega Genesis work, and does CS Source player.
Yeah,
he's also a player for Durham College as well. Yeah, and he's a great alt tracker.
Yeah, so
Noir.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was super cool that Warfare Matt and Pwn had that Durham College connection. Great showing of support for the collegiate scene as well as like built-in team synergy. And Noir Overwatch was the first game that they played competitively. So you had that really cool mix of experience between former competitive Quake player, and Overwatch is the first game I ever really took seriously.
Exactly. And I know one thing that the Alpha Flight team does have up its sleeve is its coaching staff.
Yeah.
They have Jay as a strategic coach, obviously the GM of Toronto Defiant, and they have a former Revival coach, Cynic, as another strategic coach. So these couple of guys who are doing some good VOD reviews after the scrims. They'll give them some good advice.
I was going to say Cynic is the former Revival is a tier 2 team, contenders team, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
I know the other fun fact was that they almost signed Moon Blue as their 4,500 DPS player. For those of you who don't know, he actually played in the Hong Kong World Cup team this year. So he's actually from Markham, but that would have put him over the SR cap. They would have had to shift some things around. So I know by the time it got confirmed, it didn't really make sense. But man, a DPS lineup of Moon Blue and 60 would have been really cool to watch.
That would have been awesome to watch. Now moving on to the 5 Deadly Venoms. So the GM of 5 Deadly Venoms is Curio Queen. Their charity is called University Settlement. So 5 Deadly Venoms has been with University Settlement for I believe a couple of years now. They have a good history of supporting each other. And University Settlement is a charity that has their hand in a lot of different pots. They help out with disenfranchised people in a lot of different areas of New York. One of the big things that they're well known for is literacy training. So they teach people English, proper learning and writing skills.
Yeah, they have a ton of youth support, LGBT programs, and support groups. Again, when I talked to Curio Queen as well as Richard, second the sentiment, like University Settlement really encapsulates New York and what it means to be from New York and New York culture. And I know that when I was talking to Curio Queen, that was a big sort of emphasis she wanted to put, not just on the unit, on the charity that they chose, but also the roster that they selected. Was very much about being from New York. So I think that was pretty cool.
Exactly. So just onto the roster, their tank line, we have Fancy Shrimp and Gian. I hopefully pronounced that right.
Gian, I think it was Gian, but yeah, exactly.
So Fancy Shrimp is their main tank, 3,100 main tank, and John is their 3,700 off tank.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Fancy Shrimp is that she actually does the graphics for the 5 Deadly Venom, which is awesome. Again, it just shows that both of these teams really took the their communities serious. So, oh my God, we forgot. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's not too late. The way that these rosters were selected, there's 2 main stipulations. So there's a $20,000 SR cap, which means the entire 6-man roster of your team, 6-person roster, can exceed 20,000. That brings the average SR to around 3.3K. And the other main stipulation of building these rosters was that they have to be people who are like vocal and show support in the community. So come out to watch parties, at least in some way, shape, or form. So I know that was a sentiment that all 4 GMs sort of shared, and that's why we were mentioning people's SRs, because obviously some people, as you saw in Rich's case, put more SR in their support line and then had to sacrifice SR in other areas. Whereas, and you'll see coming up, 5 Deadly Venoms has a lot of stuff in the DPS lineup and then sacrifice in other areas. So it's this cool sort of like, how do I build a team with the SR I have available? Some people go over 3.3, others under. But we just want to make that very clear so you guys aren't confused. It's like, why are these guys, why doesn't a team just build a bunch of GM players? Like, New York's a big city. It's because they really wanted people from their community and there was an SR gap. So now we got that out of the way. We can continue with the roster lineup.
Yes, exactly. And on that, we're on the, I believe, DPS. We have Rose, which is a, yes, I believe I got that right. And Javion.
Yeah.
So Javion is absolute legend. This guy's a 3,100 former top 500 DPS.
Yeah.
This guy's streaming all the time on Twitch. So most of you guys, may have seen him already.
Yeah.
And he's, on his way to become a Twitch partner. And he's once again one of those OGs of 5 Daily Venoms.
Yeah. And I think Rose, he's a 3,000 DPS player. And I know that the fun fact was that he's a legit singer, which I think is going to be really cool for comms, especially.
So he'll be singing those comms hard.
Marissa, no gold. So that's going to be ideal. So hopefully he does that and that works out.
And finally, their support line. We got a main support, JD. He is a 2750. And we got Smack Boy, a 4,400
support player. Yeah. And so, 4,402 is like an insane amount. So I know that when we were talking to people about the 5 Deadly Venoms, a lot of people were like, hey, the DPS sounds great. Javion, super talented. But Smack Boy at 4,402, that's an incredible SR. So obviously they put a lot of resources in that as well. And we were told for him specifically, he's super energetic, fun to listen to, ton of shot calling. Very much keeps the team morale up. And then him and Javion have actually recently placed. They played in a tournament together and they placed 8th. So there's a ton of synergy there, and they're also used to playing in like a tournament setting. So I'm very excited to see this team play.
Exactly, and it's also good to know that they do have a very strong support staff, and they were in this tournament last year, so they kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, for the support staff, I know the coach is BK and the team manager is Linnell, and I know that I've heard positive things about both of those individuals.
Yeah, so next up is our Houston Outlaws. So our Houston Outlaws, their main charity is the Dell Children's Hospital. Yeah. So when you're contributing to the Dell Children's Hospital, it's to a general fund. So it goes to anybody who really just needs a fund at the time. And they do have another personal connection. One of the nurses that works at Dell Children's Hospital is one of the founding members of the community.
Mm-hmm. Which is, again, just a really cool connection between the supporters club and the charity that they've chose, the local charity that they've chose. So the GM that we spoke to was Nubatron. He's one of the GMs of the supporters club, and let's just get right into the roster. So their main tank and probably again their best known player is Badger B. He's a 4K main tank. You would have seen him in the previous Homefront tournament. I know he was really, really good because even before we'd done the interviews, Richard and Curio Queen sentimented this or confirmed this, was that there's like this rivalry between the New York and Javion and then Badger B in Houston. So I think that's really cool. So I've seen him play last year at the Homefront, and he's a fantastic main tank. And then the other off tank on their team is Apollo, who's 4K, and he's actually the team captain. He's someone else who helped at a lot of the watch parties with activations, running boosts. He's been an observer. And again, a very interesting thing to note about this team is that they've, 8 KSR for a tank line is a lot. So it's very interesting to see that they put their resources in there.
Yeah, and on the DPS line, they have Noodles and Tenspire, both about a 3200, 3300 SR around there. And what's really interesting is Tenspire, this guy has done some contenders, some open diff stuff. So this guy has some experience in the competitive scene.
Yeah. And Tenspire was also a former teammate of Apollo's and some other contenders in Open Division stuff. I think they were in Open Division trying to get to contenders. But just again, it goes to show that like chemistry and synergy is already there. Moving on to the DPS, they have Cress and Cooley J. Now Cress is a 2483.
You mean support?
Support, yeah, I meant support. 2483 main support. The cool thing about Cress is that she was on the second team last year. Really, really want to be a part of the Homefront this year. And I know when I was talking to Nubatron, he's like she put a lot of effort into like improving ult tracking and her communications, and scrims outside of the game itself, so that she could be able to play in this year. And obviously got the slot. So it's a really cool story. I always respect the hustle, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that she was able to get that main support or flex support position. And then Cool J has been described as the Red Lucio, always a good time, left with the party, and a really good ult tracker. So a very exciting and interesting team to take note of.
Yeah, this team definitely has a good mixture of very experienced people and some people that are a little bit less experienced. So it's going to be interesting to see how this communication works and how everybody do in this tournament for that team. So on to our final team, we have the Atlanta Royal Family. So the Atlanta Royal Family is supporting the children's healthcare of Atlanta. So this healthcare is kind of like another general fund that helps people in need, although it has a very, very, very special place with the Atlanta Royal Family. The GM of the Atlanta Royal Family, Ozzy, he has 2 siblings who were affected by spina bifida. Yeah. And they both were recipients of, help and care from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta when they were growing up. Yeah. So he has, a personal stake in seeing this charity succeed, which is something that really touches a couple of my heartstrings.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, I think the coolest part about this is that all these cities have chosen like local charities that they have a connection to. And I think that's just a great thing to see. I think it really represents what this is all about.
So they're tanks. They have Jaeger and Marlin. Jaeger is a 2900 Chem Eng flavor maker. This guy tastes flavors all day, which is awesome. If I was a flavor maker at like a place like Nestle or like Breyers, I would legit eat all the food.
you just make all the food, eat all the food? Yeah.
Yes. Marlon himself is a 2600 off tank.
Yeah. So moving on to the DPS player, they have Inertia. who's 3,400, and then they have Anks, who I believe she's 39, so just shy, excuse me, of hitting that 4K, which is really, really cool. So the cool thing about Inertia is he actually was a professional poker player before he started playing Overwatch. That was like his legitimate job. I think for like 4 or 5 years he played poker professionally.
Yeah.
That's how he paid the bills, which is awesome. Like I wonder if he like legitimately goes into every team fight, has like a percentage in his head that he thinks, the team fight win percentage. I don't know if he's that intense, but it'd be interesting.
Probably.
And then Anks, I believe, is like I think her main is support. So I think she's actually above 4K in support, but they decided to put her on DPS just to sort of round out the roles, which is just really cool because, again, she has a ton of talent. So I'm interested to see her play.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually have in this area, we have 3 different supports. We have, Jules, a GM support, 4,100.
4,150, yeah.
So this girl is awesome. She probably knows exactly how to ult track,
shot call,
shot call, everything like that. We have Phoenix 16-bit, so it's a high silver, low gold player who is, fun fact, a bartender at a strip club. Hilarious. And then we have Miss Seabass. And she is a high silver Lucio.
Yeah. So I think what happened was with the Miss Seabass Phoenix thing, I think they had 2 people who wanted to go to for a position, and I mean Ozzy, and I think the way that they built this team, they just have a big heart, right? So I think he was sort of just like, he wanted to give as many positions and as much play time as to as many people as he could. So I think that's really cool. They sort of split that final roster slot up to 2 different people. I think it really encapsulates, because that's talking. Yeah, Atlanta just played at their heart. I think they're all about having a good time, doing a good cause.
They're so cool. Like honestly, after chatting with them, they're a team that literally just wants to have fun. Is like, he's like, whatever, we'll just have some beers after.
Exactly. They want to have a good time, and they obviously want to raise some money and raise awareness for a good cause. So yeah, that's Atlanta. I think we got that out of the way.
Awesome. So Spencer, what do you think is going to happen? We have our first match, 5 Deadly Venoms versus Vanguard. How's that going to go down?
Yeah, so this is obviously the grudge match between last year's Homefront teams. So for those of you who don't know, the Vanguard did win last year. I think this is going to be a really, really, really good matchup. I think this is really cool between the Vanguard Houston team, which sort of put a lot of SR and weight into their tank line, and then the 5 Deadly Venoms team, which put a lot of SR, more their DPS lineup, and with Javion sort of being the one to watch. The Javion versus Badger B matchup, I think, is going to be really interesting. I actually have 5 Deadly Venoms coming out on top in this situation, because the way I looked at it, and again, we'll see what happens. Obviously, it's just a fun tournament. It's like in my predictions. I do think that Double Shield is going to be the best meta, whether that be Orisa Rhine or Orisa Sigma. I think when you look at the potential skill gap between like an Orisa Reinhardt or an Orisa Sigma, especially Orisa Sigma, for instance, I think it lends itself with like a lower skill gap for the tank positions. And so I think that's going to give, and again, with like less coordination, you have more people with the potential to be out of positions, in which case I think a higher skilled DPS lineup might be able to get some picks with like a Hanzo May. I will add this stipulation, though, that because we saw from our interview with Jay that dive is a legitimate strategy. Like a far dive is a legitimate thing that some teams are running. I think if that is viable, and is as viable as some teams think it might be, then I think that Houston can actually take this if they can run that, because it's been like a lot of teams aren't used to running and playing against dive. So I do think that if the dive works, Houston can take it, but my prediction would be 5 Deadly Venoms.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Now, apart from Alpha Flight versus Atlanta, I have a feeling that Alpha Flight's going to win.
Yeah,
they have their 60. They have some good people with a lot of experience on their team, and Atlanta's been built to be the team with heart, the team that everybody cheers for, and that is kind of the face of this great charitable cause. But I don't think that they'll win this time around.
Yeah, I think Atlanta has a lot of heart, but I think Alpha Flight with the coaching staff, the support staff, with some really good weight on the carry positions. I know that Rich's mentality, again, people out of position, they need heals. I know they want to win. They want to win right. Every team is about community. I think with Baptiste being as strong as he is, you're going to have the ability to carry with that hero. Zenyatta, when he can click heads, he can output a ton of damage. So I do think that Alpha Flight's going to take this. Yeah, and I think 60 is a real wild card because he's in there at 3,700, but I know his peak is above that. And if Double Shield must have hit him hard because his Widowmaker is insane. And if his Hanzo's even, half as good as his Widowmaker, it's going to be a really, really good match to watch. So I do have Alpha Flight coming on top.
It is going to be a good one. But in the finals, what do you think is going to happen? 5 Daily Venoms or Alpha Flight?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if Houston wins, 5 Daily Venom wins. For this case, I'm going to go 5 DV. I think I do have to give it to 5DV, unfortunately, as much as I want to, represent Toronto and Richard, please forgive me. I think it's really cool what these teams have done with like putting stuff around tanks and then putting SR around DPS and putting SR around supports and Atlanta, which splits it up a little bit more. Like I think it's a really interesting way to craft a team. But at the end of the day, I think that last year this thing peaked at 4.5k people. Playing in front of 4,500 people, that who knows what this year is going to be. That's a lot of people. And I think there's no way that the nerves won't potentially, to not include the possibility of nerves, even though it's not a competitive tournament, right? It's for a good cause. It's to have fun. It's to raise some money for charity.
There's still some skin in the game, right? The winner gets pot.
Exactly. I know for a fact teams want to win, and if you're a player who's never really played before at a high level, like as a plat god myself, who's peaked at diamond, by the way. But as a plat god myself, playing in front of 4,500 people would make anybody nervous. So I think given the fact that 5 Deadly Venoms had the experience of doing it last year, I do think that they're going to be a little bit calm and cooler and collected under pressure. So I do have them coming out in front. And that's my finals prediction. How about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think they're going to come on top, and I think lots of it's going to come from the fact that they have experience here before.
I can't believe you're going to disrespect Alpha Flight. That was a test. You failed. I pick an Alpha Flight all the way, baby. 3-0. I baited them. Alpha Flight through and through, baby. Let's go.
Richard, please don't listen to this.
Okay, so that's a sort of breakdown. That's the event. Again, we're going to put the link for all of the charities, the supporter clubs, the Twitter, all that in the description below, the Twitch where you can watch the event. At the end of the day, this really is just a fun tournament. It's for a good cause. It's to raise money for charity. I think it really encapsulates what like Overwatch and esports is all about, especially in the Overwatch League with building community and trying to raise money and awareness for all these causes and picking local charities especially. So if you can make it out to your local venues, we're going to put that information as well. Please do. That'd be great. And if not, just come by and hang out on Twitch. Any sort of support, whether it be a monetary or just via, putting an emote in chat is going to be greatly appreciated.
It is.
We look forward to seeing you there. So if you have anything else to say, Chris, otherwise I think we're good to go.
No, good. I think we're good here. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for listening and
enjoy.